Welcome to TELO Talks, where we bring you inside our network of amazing people. Luminaries we rely on every day to inform us on technology, automotive history, engineering best practices, and more. All so we can build an epic company and deliver an amazing truck to you.
Clive, thanks for joining me on this episode of TELO Talks. Clive is the CEO of Aria Group, who is our contract manufacturer for our first few vehicles. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
We're a small company here in Southern California, and we help companies like TELO try to develop their products, and it's been pretty fun doing this one.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed it. So we've been working together on this best part of a year, I guess.
Just about a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to fully functional vehicles in less than a year. It's pretty incredible.
I mean, just to be sure, we just started talking about it a year ago.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
That's right.
yeah. So,
There's certainly some negotiation involved. So tell us a little bit about how Aria started.
yeah. So my background is engineering, and I started the company a long time ago, 30 years ago. I come from the automotive background, so I saw a great opportunity to help manufacturers develop products. Back when we first started, we were very advanced in computer development at that time. Software was a big push for the start of the company, and then over time our customers asked us to do more and more and more, from originally just starting to help them with design and engineering through to building full vehicles. So, of course, the software side of how TELO wanted to develop the vehicle was important, because that's kind of our heritage. And I think this really is a physical and virtual build all in one, and we'll see a bit of that later with the AR stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more. How does one just talk to an automaker and say, hey, we're going to start building technology and eventually building cars for you? Like, what was those early days like at Aria?
Long, very long, as you know. Yeah, we luckily I had lots of contacts in the industry, so I have a funny story. Our first major customer, we thought we would be this purely digital company. That was how the company started. So my first building was on the third floor of an office block. We had a building with a conference room, and our first major client to come and visit us was Honda. The chap was named Tony Akeda, was the lead head of Honda R&D, and he came in and came up the elevator, and we did a big presentation of all these great things we could do, and then he said, oh, great, can you do a full-size clay model? I thought, you didn't quite remember you came up an elevator. So before you knew it, we had a building and other things. So just to answer your question properly, luckily I knew a lot of people in the industry and had a fairly good reputation. So I was horrible. We didn't have any business cards for the first 5 years. We were that bad at marketing.
When did you actually build your first drivable vehicle at Aria?
Oh, I think that was in about the first 18 months of the company.
So very quickly went from software to
hardware.
Let's build real freaking vehicles. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's the essence of it, right?
Yeah.
You have to put the both things together, because even today, when we've had a lot of people here looking at the car, and they've seen pictures and they've talked to you and they've seen mock-ups, but the minute you see a vehicle,
It can be a real thing.
changes everyone's vision.
Absolutely. So were you in Irvine back then when you started?
That's right.
Tell us about Irvine a little bit, because there's something automotive and special. I mean, you are located on Daimler Street. Like, that is what is that, the first automaker ever?
Yeah.
The 1800s? Like,
I think that's just pure coincidence.
okay,
But yeah.
but tell us about Irvine, because it
Yeah,
seems to
so
be
the interesting thing about Southern California is actually Toyota started, they moved here to Jamboree in Irvine. I think it's close to 40 years ago now, and they opened a satellite studio as Toyota entered the US market to try and understand what it would take to design and develop vehicles to meet the US market. And that started the whole ball rolling. I mean, of course, there's a long culture of cars in California. The famous coach builders back in the 20s and 30s and so on. But Toyota came, they set up, they still have a facility there. And before long, I think there was 26 automakers had design centers in Southern California. I think it's, just understood as a place where there's a lot of design and media, surf industry, so many things. And the car industry, it's a big car culture, and the car industry wanted to be here. So it became kind of a thought center for automotive. And I think it still is. I mean, we see that today. Between now, because of the software and the technology side, between Northern California and Southern California, still I think is a leader in thought process around automotive.
Absolutely. Now, the thing that always, like, when we say, hey, we're using Aria Group, it's funny that a lot of people haven't heard of you. And, I mean,
By design.
Tell us about that. Why? How is that by design?
Well, we pride ourselves as the brand behind the brand. So our job is not really to be outward facing to the general public. We work with companies like yourself, and we help them develop and provide some horsepower to what they're trying to do. So we're a business-to-business type company. And nearly everything we do, including your project, of course, is under strict confidentiality while it's all in development and everything else. So we're very quiet. We sit in the background.
Yeah.
And we do things in the industry.
And it's incredible. I mean, obviously we can't talk about your other customers, but you've had your hand in some of the early prototypes for almost all major automakers. It's absolutely, I'm shocked that people haven't heard of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, people in the industry, but not outside so much.
Exactly.
A friend of you and I's, Martin Eberhardt, would tell you, right?
So actually, I'll tell that story.
I'm not allowed to tell that story, so you have to tell that story.
So one of our investors and advisors, Martin Eberhard, he was employee number 1 at Tesla as the CEO and the founder. We were evaluating a bunch of different people that could potentially contract manufacture for low volumes for our vehicle, for our pre-production vehicles. And I was going through a bunch of really competitive quotes and trying to figure out who do I really want to work with in these early days of the company. And I talked to Martin, I talked to Mark, I had lunch with them. And I said, hey, here's who we're looking at. And Martin stops and looks at me and goes, I'd trust Clive with my life.
Well,
so we said,
it's a very nice thing for him to say.
Yeah, and they said, okay, well, that's all I need to know. That's the direction we're going to head.
The kind of backstory is there is the first 4 Tesla Roadsters they showed to the world we helped them develop. So I'm very proud of that. Yeah,
it's
very
incredible.
proud of that.
Tell us a little bit about this project. What was unique, different, maybe even the same about this project that you've seen before?
Well, I like the concept. I think a lot of people are interested in small vehicles. General life, it's easy to have a smaller vehicle. You want to use less of the world's resources. You want convenience. You want to be able to park it easily at home. All these kind of things. They like small vehicles, but they don't want to give up the utility. And that's always the point, right? You think, oh, that's really cool, but there's no utility. So I thought this was pretty amazing concept because you've got all the advantages of a small vehicle, but still maintaining all the utility. So when you first started talking to me about it, I'm like, all right, that's something interesting.
And that's funny because why don't you tell them what you drive right now?
I drive a full-size pickup.
I'm pretty sure a Ram 2500 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a big pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think the mid-size pickup truck market has always kind of been flat because it's really something and nothing. If you spend all the money for a mid-size pickup truck, you're like, I might as well have a full-size one.
Yeah.
Because it's not small, any smaller that makes any material difference. So all you lack is some of the advantages, and none of the, the disadvantages are not good. So I think the bookends is much more sensible than the middle of the market for me.
Yeah, and we're trying to be the farthest bookend we could possibly be.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, there's still always going to be customers for full-size pickup trucks. Of
course.
There's many people, and it's interesting. You could call it a pickup truck. You could call it something else because it's a small vehicle with a lot of utility, right? And that's a unique proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. We were a fledgling startup. In
That's
fact,
true.
you actually met us before we had even plans of building this vehicle. We were trying to build a kind of a stationary show vehicle, and you said, sure, we could do that for you, but what we're really good at is getting to this level of vehicle. And we said, okay, so we will wait till we get to that level, and we did, and we called you back, and we said, here's what we want to do. But when you met us then, I'm sure you had seen 100 other EV startups before. You talked to many founders. What was your impression?
My opinion is all business is about the people. It's always about the people. And that's been proven time and time again with better mousetraps in companies that fail. It's always about the people. So, for us, it's always exciting when we find the right group of people and we feel confident, and then we want to be involved in it more.
Yeah.
Money's not the sole solution, and often even ideas are not the solution. It's always the people.
Yeah.
So, we thought, it's a good group of people. They have a clear vision. They're excited, energetic about it. And I would say more pragmatic than some. There's some people who are not pragmatic enough for how complex it is to do something like a whole vehicle. You're learning all that about that. I'm still learning about that all the time. There's a lot involved in it. So you have to have that right combination of enthusiasm and pragmatism to actually get the product done.
So, which is exactly what I was going to say. What advice would you have to the early stage automotive companies, the ones that are the new fledglings that are coming after us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult market to enter into, for sure. We all know that, right? And it's highly capital intensive. I think, again, going back to my previous comment is, don't try and build an empire. Try and build a really small, really effective team and get it going with that. And that is how you'll build enthusiasm around the product, around the brand, I hope. And, that will ultimately attract investors and partners and suppliers and all the things you need to make that suit work. But, I've seen a number of companies that run out and raise money. Mm-hmm. They hire a whole big group of people, and they're not as successful as a company with a small group of really talented people who are highly motivated. So, I think it's kind of the same thing. Focus on the people.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see Aria Group in 5 and 10 years?
We're slowly building the company. We have three primary divisions. So we do a lot of transportation work, which is all the ground-based stuff. We have an aerospace division, which is obviously everything above ground, and then we do some entertainment work as well. And over time, we'd like to, in the last 15 years, we've started to become a slow volume manufacturer, and we have some ambitions to grow that a little bit, but we kind of want to stay in the area of the automotive market that's about enthusiasm rather than about white goods,
Yeah. When you explain white goods in the sense?
White goods is a Maytag washing machine. Works perfectly well, but nobody gets excited about buying one, right?
Yeah.
And a kind of a
crossovers,
Honda,
right?
Yeah, kind of, Honda Accord, Toyota Camry. I mean, you buy one because you need one, but it's not something you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about. So, I
clearly haven't been in my dreams.
So I feel like, the enthusiastic side of the market, there's still a lot of opportunity there. People are, very passionate about cars. People ask me all the time, how come you're into cars, you do the car business? I said, well, we went to the moon. What should we take? We took a car. That's how much we like cars. You're going to the moon, let's take a car. So people are passionate about them, as contrary to what people say, young people don't care about cars and all that. I don't think that's true. I think they don't care about mass transit, big transit, sitting on the 405 in a boring box. I don't think they care about that. But I think, vehicles which give you enthusiasm, people really, really like them. That's, it's the ultimate, for the average person, it's the ultimate man-machine interface, right?
I couldn't agree more. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned that one of your divisions in the building we're in right now is low-volume contract manufacturing.
That's right.
When you say that, what do you actually mean by those words?
Yeah, so currently we tell people we can build between 1 and 100 of something. But so what we do is that we help with the engineering and design as well as the manufacturing process and then physically manufacturing. Whether that's us producing certain components in-house or whether working with supply chain, assembly, all those functions. As on this project, your engineering team was heavily involved, the platform, powertrain. Our engineering team helped with the kind of vehicle body and interior. So we're building vehicles for a few small manufacturers and some OEMs too, in low volume. And that's our sweet spot right now.
Yeah. So when we talk about contract manufacturing, I think a lot of people's minds go to high volume semiconductor, consumer electronics type things happening overseas right now.
Right.
Contract manufacturing can be any size. It could mean you're manufacturing 5.
That's right.
1, 2, 3.
That's right. Yeah, and it's very much a game of balancing out the amount of capital you've invested, how much you want to use human expertise versus machine expertise, to try and find that sweet spot where you can build in the volume and at the price point to make it work. If you want to compete with an F-150 pickup truck, you need several $1 billion of capital and so on and so forth. And then you're going to build one every 48 seconds like they do.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. There was a one-size-fits-all in automotive manufacturing. I think that paradigm is shifting quite a bit. You've seen some of that with what Tesla's done. Gigafactory, gigacastings, various. They were brave enough to try some new things, and they're changing the paradigm.
And I have the book on my desk, The Toyota Way. You know, it was in the paradigm that happened in the 70s and 80s, right? And that was a transition that has kind of been the case for automotive for so long.
That's right.
This idea that contract manufacturing could be a viable path for going from low volume all the way up to high volume.
That's right.
As just like it's a new concept in automotive world.
Yeah, and it's in combination with technology, right? Because technology has allowed that to happen more than it did historically. The trouble is with kind of one-size-fits-all typical manufacturing approach, you have a massive amount of capital. That's it. You have to put that much capital in to build that way. And that means you must hit a volume, a huge volume, to recoup that capital investment. And that really limits what you can do with the product and how you approach it. You know, it's a very, it adds a tremendous amount of additional risk and arguably not much more reward.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talk to a lot of companies in our shoes, whether they're probably not many people that are earlier than us, but probably a good amount of people that are a little bit later than us as well. What do you think almost every single company like ours, an early stage automotive company, gets wrong in the beginning?
That's right. You know, you have to have a strong passion and a strong vision, but you obviously also have to have a real sense of the market, right? You can't build your own dream. You have to build a dream that's appealing to a bunch of people, but you have to be a leader in that dream, not a follower in that dream. So I think a lot of companies potentially fall in love with too much with their own product, or conversely, they listen too much to the market. You know, the market's not visionary. The market, the general consumer, their opinion of vehicles is what they drive today. Well, those vehicles were designed 5 years ago, right? They're not current with what the opportunities are.
I think it was a Henry Ford quote, ask people what they wanted, they'll say, hey, fast a horse, right? Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. That's the challenging thing. If you go to a focus group and you show a design, you're showing something you're designed today that, because it's how long it takes, won't be available on the market for 4 to 5 years. And your focus group people are driving vehicles that at best were designed 5 years ago. That's a 10-year gap between what they are used to and what the vision is. So you have to be leaders, but you also have to listen to them.
Yeah, I think it's a hard balance to strike.
It is.
Especially when you're doing something a little different in
Yep.
the world. Well, the last question I have for you is, what advice would you have to us as we move forward into the next phase of our company?
You have to be extremely thoughtful on every single step. This industry, there's so much at stake. It's very difficult to make wrong moves and react. So, you know, you've got good advisors already, and they will help you out, and that's a very key point. But, you know, you have to be careful not to run down a dead end, because it's a capital-intensive business, even in a novel approach to it. So you have to be very, very careful to make those strategic steps. Even if you have to wait just a little bit more to make that step accurately, make it accurately.
Yeah.
That'd be my advice.
Awesome. Well, I super appreciate that, and thank you for the conversation.
Thanks, man.